Welcome to the HR Tech Spotlight Podcast. I'm Deanna Shimoda, CEO of Growth Mode Marketing. The HR technology market is crowded, and we know it can be hard to find the best software solutions for your business in the sea of sameness. On this podcast, we shine a spotlight on some of the best up-and-coming technology options out there. Check it out if you are interested in learning about new innovative solutions available in the market. And if you are with an HR tech company and interested in being considered for a guest spot, stay tuned for details at the end of the show. Hello, and welcome to another episode of the HR Tech Spotlight. Today, we are digging in to talk about MeBeBot, an AI digital employee experience platform that harnesses generative and authoritative AI to help organizations create stronger trust and engagement among employees by giving them accurate and compliant answers to their questions. By automating answers to frequently asked questions, employees get help and support 24/7 within Slack, Teams, and via web chat. Joining me to talk about MeBeBot is Beth White, founder and CEO of the company. Welcome to the show, Beth.
Well, thanks so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, it's great to have you. So let's start off. Tell us about your background in the HR tech space.
Well, really, my background began in HR. So I kind of found myself as an accidental technology person within the space. I like many people that started in HR, fell into HR. It wasn't my degree or major. In fact, I went to University of Wisconsin-Madison, go Badgers, and we are, I was focusing on a pre-law, really, professional path. And I found myself working in organizations that needed help with recruiting and developing talent. And next thing you know, I'm part of the HR team. So I spent many years working in a number of different companies, from service and hospitality industries to retail to a lot of tech companies here in Austin, Texas, and grew a career really having worked in every different type of role within HR. But I actually left HR, which was kind of a pivotal moment because of the frustration that MeBeBot solves for, and went into another area of enterprise software sales in the retail tech community and learned a lot about things that we can bring into the HR tech world from learning about the business to consumer and customer experience side of things.
Very cool. So let's talk a bit about what MeBeBot actually does.
Absolutely. So kind of segueing from my background and getting into the retail tech space, what I learned is that in companies today, we often don't know enough about our people to really do well to support them, to provide them communications, to engage with them, and really to develop them to be their best selves inside the workplace and to really help drive making work more meaningful. And so when the beginnings of AI chatbots started to surface on business to consumer kind of websites, we all likely saw them at the eras of the bank having a chatbot pop up or your cell phone provider having a chatbot. What we saw was the beginnings of how do we help support people, consumers, in a different way, in a more automated fashion to allow them 24/7 support. So what MeBeBot did is we kind of flipped the model. We said, what if we provide that same type of employee support within inside companies and give employees, putting them at the center of the human design, a quick, easy way in their flow of work to access MeBeBot so that they can get all the different types of questions they have in order to make themselves successful at the company, answered 24/7 in a seamless way from an app in Slack, Microsoft Teams. We have a web chat, and moving forward, we're going to be launching an SMS text messaging interface as well for those frontline workers that are out there not in behind a computer. So we automate employee support. We help do communications to target employees and give them what they need when they're looking for it. We ask employees for feedback, and then we share all this data and insights to the business in a dashboard so that they can have real-time analytics on the people within inside their organizations. And the more you learn, the more you can respond, right?
So you mentioned that you were previously in HR, and so you know the frustrations firsthand that people in those roles have. Tell us the story about how you found MeBeBot and came up with the idea for it.
Absolutely. When I was, gosh, I date myself a little, over 20 years ago, I was working for a large computer consulting firm, and we had people across the globe, 100,000 people across the globe. And I ran an employee benefits support center. What did that mean? It meant we took phone calls from employees. We fielded emails. We helped support employees in a different way, in more of that call center support fashion. And really, the idea of MeBeBot came to, well, what's a 2.0 version of employee support? Well, let's enable AI technology to help automate the opportunities to provide employees 24/7 support, especially in our global and dynamic world we live in, where we have teams working remote, hybrid in other countries. And there's just a need to have more of this centralized support, but also provide that automation. Because my biggest frustration when I was in HR is I never had enough time in the day to get everything done that I wanted to do that could be more strategic for the business. And so by providing a solution that allows our customers, a lot of HR people, IT people, even facilities and payroll folks, time to be able to focus on more strategic tasks that are helping move the business forward, yet know that their employees are going to be taken care of. It's essentially a win-win on both sides of the equation.
And what would you say, and I feel like you've kind of alluded to this already, but what's a big challenge or problem that you see facing HR departments today that MeBeBot can help with?
I think one of the biggest problems is everyone's looking to do more with less. And when I say everyone, it's every company. We've seen a lot of reductions across various industries. Departments are getting scaled back, so there's not as many team members to support employees and the other types of work that has to be done. So what we solve for is we can help free up some valuable time so that the business, meaning the folks in those roles, can focus on, again, compensation plans, DEI initiatives, wellness programs, even help IT teams focus on security and compliance needs that the organizations have. And so by just doing that aspect of taking that level of work off their plates, essentially, we're able to, again, open up opportunities to do more with less in individuals, and have a digital assistant essentially be a nice sidekick or addition to the HR team. In fact, we have one of our blog posts has MeBeBot as part of the org chart, because that's really how we see ourselves. We see ourselves as augmenting the humans in the roles so that they can be doing the things that they frankly went to school for, that give them more value in what they're providing to the companies, as well as making their own lives more meaningful as well.
So I think in the HR tech space, there's certainly a lot of options out there, right? And I know that there are other companies that are doing things that are probably very similar to what MeBeBot offers. What is your unique point of view in the market or differentiation compared to the competitors out there?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we came to market over 5 years ago with a solution to be what we were calling a bot in a box. So I know you mentioned that you come from a marketing background as well. And one way that we used to describe MeBeBot is it's kind of like the era of the web. When the web first started and people started designing websites, writing HTML text and crafting web pages, on their own. Now you would never likely do that to create a website. You would use WordPress or you would use Wix to create a website. We provide companies with the ability to quickly launch an AI platform and chatbot to their employees, where we cloud host the solution. We take care of the machine learning and the ongoing training of the solution so that the business can focus on what they do best. The other component that we have embraced in the last year and a half that is definitely our core differentiator is that we have a hybrid model to leveraging AI. So when people think about AI technologies, they often think about ChatGPT. It's great at helping you craft and write perhaps an employee job description or, come up with a blog post, for example. But generative AI today in its current state, is what's being talked about. There are levels of what they call hallucinations, where it can hear or see a prompt and respond with information that may not be as accurate. And the reasoning for that is because a lot of the ways these large language models leveraged in generative AI were created was ingesting publicly sourced information. Well, if you think about supporting employee needs inside a company, that information was never accessible to be ingested. And so generative AI in its current state is frankly not ready to deliver policy information in a secure, compliant way to employees that keeps the business in a good, legally sound place. And so what MeBeBot does is we allow companies to, we'll ingest company documentation like company handbooks, benefit summary guides, IT FAQs. We apply generative AI, but we also apply two different, what they're calling in the market today, small language models that are designed to be data models specifically trained for this specific business use case. And we continue to hone on this domain specific data model so that we know that the information we're succinctly providing as a potential answer to an employee is really accurate, but then we still have the human in the loop to verify the information before the information is delivered to an employee. All that information can be set inside our platform, and it's essentially the concepts of what you're now hearing more about in the marketplace. It's AI with guardrails. So we're an easy to launch solution that provides enterprise compliance because we're leveraging this concept of generative AI plus verified AI with the guardrails so that companies can be assured employees are getting information that has not changed from the sense of what they want them to receive in compliance with all their business processes. I know that's a lot and a mouthful, but in the era of AI, it's a huge distinction, and it's a big area of opportunity because AI is not one size fits all. And we're all starting to see that as we get into the space of AI more and use it in our daily lives. There's great use cases for certain things, and then there's other opportunities and times where it doesn't quite work well. So we're leaning into where you have to have precision, you have to have compliance, especially when it comes down to employees knowing how things operate with inside their businesses.
Yeah, that makes total sense. And I think, collectively as a whole, the HR industry, like there's a lot of people out there that don't have a lot of experience with AI yet. And their perception might be like, I buy this out of the box, it works for us, it's great. And, those of us who have worked with AI know that the quality of the data in m- matches the quality of the data out, right? And so there's a lot
Absolutely.
of things around using AI tools that organizations need to be aware of as they go into there to make sure that it truly works the way they need it to work for them.
And we lean into that a lot. In fact, we launched a group called Ethical AI for HR. It's a LinkedIn group where we're keeping abreast to all the different changes out there because not only is it how does this work and how do I understand what the AI is doing, how do we also keep abreast to all the growing changes in employment law? There
Mhm.
has been the first ever class action lawsuit filed against Workday by the EEOC for biases in the way that they're handling the application and screening processes of resumes, for example, or applications coming into their system. Individuals, believe that there may have been biases. And so there's laws correct today in New York City, where this class action lawsuit was filed, to actually say that companies need to disclose, how they're leveraging AI in the recruiting and sourcing and screening of candidates in the hiring process. And if they fail to do it in accordance to the laws, there will be fines, for those individual companies. And just, of course, ill will, because, you want to be seen as an employer that's a great place to work and has ethical principles where technology is not being biased, in place of the company itself, right?
Yeah, yeah. There's a lot to think about in
It's
today's
it's a
world.
hot topic. I mean, it does get complex, and so, I hate to go down such a technical path, but I think the more people understand about AI and how it works, the more that they're actually going to gain trust and being able to work with vendors and partners that really understand it potentially better than they may at the start, gives them assurance that they're keeping an eye on everything that's happening out there, because it is going to get complicated, especially in the world. I mean, there's different
Yeah.
laws happening in Germany and Switzerland and other countries that haven't even made its way to the US yet. And then we're a country that loves to have everything regulated on a state level, right? And so that does keep, people having to stay on top of this, but you don't want them to be scared of the technology in order to do so, right? That's the biggest thing, is we believe
Yeah.
that everyone can leverage AI for good, for the best intentions, which is helping to free up time, helping to provide employees that kind of support that they need, providing a new digital entryway into the organization that supports the changing dynamics of the workplace.
Yeah, and I think, like you hear all these things and I can see where organizations might be a little hesitant to jump right into AI, but I think one of the things that's important to like remember is if you find the right partners out there like MeBeBot who are paying attention to this stuff and really trying to stay on top of it and do what's right for their clients, you're going to be in good shape because, anybody can offer an AI solution. Not
Yeah.
everybody is mindful about all of the things surrounding it and how to make sure that clients are protected.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's where it comes from, is having the expertise on our team of people who have been in the role of HR. We come with an approach of understanding the world, the questions, the concerns, the fears, and we again have built a solution that we believe, is not just a great product today, but takes into consideration the changing landscapes and the dynamics of how AI will start to play out across businesses, as they, frankly, will be embracing it, and everybody is going about it at their own pace and path. Um, that's why, frankly, we have a hybrid model, meaning if companies are not at that point where generative AI itself is accepted as a technology solution within inside their company, however, they may be comfortable with natural language processing and machine learning, which is the basis of MeBeBot. We've been doing that for years before generative AI came along. And that's very similar to the kinds of technologies that have been out there that most consumers have embraced with using your Siri or Alexa or Google Home devices.
What type of companies are the perfect fit for MeBeBot solution?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a good question, because truly we can work with any company of any type, but the companies that really find and see our product as a huge value to their organizations are companies that are really at probably a couple hundred employees and grow and beyond, where they've reached that tipping point. They know that they may not have enough people on their team to support all the needs of their employees in the high quality way that they want their employees to be supported. They're great candidates for MeBeBot, because we come in and we provide them, a platform to use and grow upon. I mean, we do have customers in the tens of thousands of employees, but we're also happy to help companies that want to put in a great foundation and get started on a path to leveraging AI and thinking through operational efficiencies different from day one as the company is growing. Larger companies have challenges because, to your point, there are different ways you can solve, the employee support needs. And if companies have been using manual ticketing systems or other solutions provided by those larger vendors, they may be incredibly costly, or they're so difficult to manage and maintain that the business users that know about information when it's changing don't have the ability to interact with those types of systems because they're frankly too technical, and are preventing them from being more responsive, being more real time. We came with an approach of, we really want the business users to embrace MeBeBot, and we make it a very easy, comfortable, we have an AI platform that's web-based that they interact with, that does not require technical expertise, but gives people an opportunity to learn about AI and use AI in a way that upskills themselves while they're learning and providing new solutions to their employees.
And what type of impact have you seen organizations that are working with MeBeBot experience?
Yeah, so the impacts that they see, I can give you a couple case study examples. One of which is E2Open. They were one of our initial customers of MeBeBot over 5 years ago. And at that point in time, they were going through exponential growth. They had been brought back private by a PE firm, and they were tasked to acquire other companies. So they went through 14 acquisitions in 3 years. And if anybody's out there in the world of HR, that's a really hard task, because you don't get to add more people to your HR team just because you're, adding new companies. And every time you do an acquisition, that's a whole group of new hires that have to be acclimated to the new company. So they had MeBeBot in as a foundational support, so that in those orientations to those newly acquired employees, they could say, hey, we know you all have lots of new questions about your paycheck and your benefits and how you do this within our company. We provided you MeBeBot to give you that support. And it went over so great with the newly joined employees to E2Open, because they knew the company spent time thinking about them, the hurdles and obstacles they had to overcome as people being part of an acquisition. But it also freed up the individuals within the IT and the HR teams and payroll that were scrambling, frankly, to get all these new employees into systems and set up to be successful. Another use case example of MeBeBot is, with a company that we work with called IGT, and they have 10,000 employees, yet they're dispersed across the globe in over 30 countries. So they did have a great centralized, global employee support team. However, everything was very manual, meaning employees would have to submit a ticket or a case. And at times they, had to wait a couple hours to a couple days to get a response back. And they really wanted more. They wanted to provide employees better support. They wanted to be able to accommodate all the different time zones that they were on. And so MeBeBot has become their front end that not only greets new hires, so they use our push messaging functionality to send out a greeting to the new employees that just joined IGT, letting those employees know if you have quick, questions or need support, ask MeBeBot anytime. It's here to help you. We also have the ability to have the employee escalate to their live chat or to their ticketing queue if it is an issue that does require more of the human people interaction. We know we solve for about 80% of the most commonly asked questions, but again, there is a reason for the people in the process and employee support, because there are more complex things that go on that people do need higher level, what they call tier 2 or 3 level support on issues like helping me research an insurance claim challenge I'm having, or, helping navigate a potential leave of absence, for example.
What is your future vision for the company?
That's always a hard one in the world of AI because there's so much we could do and there's so much potential.
Right.
But really, where we've embraced is helping support the employee experience, but being that AI platform to support digital workplace transformation. And I know that's ambiguous and a lot, but what does that mean? And for years, people have been talking about the future of work. What does the future of work and workplaces look like? And MeBeBot is that digital assistant that is there to help guide an employee through support. However, we can do a lot more to really personalize the experience for an employee. Like, for example, being able to give them very directive answers to their questions specific to them as a person. Use MeBeBot to predict, you know, perhaps trends that are happening within a size of business based on the usage data that we have within inside our system. I think one of the interesting case studies that everyone's wanting to solve is why are we dealing with what they call autopsy data, which is data that's typically generated in your human capital management systems. Like what's the turnover report? How many people, are in this type of role on that given date a month ago. Well, people need that information in more real time, but they really just don't want the turnover report. They want to know what's happening, what's causing attrition. How do we actually help prevent people from leaving a company? What are some of the warning signs that we could use AI to actually predict potential resignations? And how do we counterbalance that? So those are some interesting opportunities that will lend itself well to the AI path that MeBeBot is on, as well as doing more to help coach and develop employees as they grow in their path to being part of organizations longer. A lot of it is developing employees. And could MeBeBot be part of that scenario where we, are coaching, we help serve up micro trainings, we help make employees understand the different opportunities that are available for them within inside their own company so that perhaps they don't leave that organization to get their dreams and goals fulfilled.
We've covered a lot today, and I know when it comes to AI, we could probably have a 6-hour conversation, right? But
Oh,
what
for
final
sure.
what final thoughts, Beth, do you want to leave our listeners with?
I think it's just, if you've got any kind of concerns and fear, talk to vendors, talk to people like MeBeBot. We're here to not only, provide a solution for companies, but we do a lot of education. We love to educate people. The more you know, the more you can get comfortable with these types of solutions that are out there, because this technology, frankly, is probably not going away. And so it's a great opportunity to start embracing it and get to use it in a way that is safe and is provided with a compliance and guardrails that can fit your business and ideally your own personal goals to grow with inside companies and use your super skills in different ways.
Where can our listeners go to learn more about MeBeBot?
We have a couple different places. We have our website, of course, www.mebebot.com, MEBEBOT.com. We also, please follow us on LinkedIn. We produce a lot of great content, again, in that education by following our MeBeBot page. We also have a MeBeBot newsletter that you can sign up for from our MeBeBot page as well. And then feel free to join our Ethical and AI group for HR. That's another opportunity to get into a community to really start to embrace the potential and power of AI, but also be comfortable with it in the sense of where it's headed as far as the legalese is concerned.
Great. I will be sure to put links to the things that Beth mentions in the show notes. Beth, thanks so much for coming on the podcast today.
Oh, thanks for having me and appreciate your time today.
Yeah, you too. Thanks for listening to this episode of the HR Tech Spotlight Podcast, where we showcase some of the best up-and-coming HR technology options in the market. If you are an HR tech company leader who would like to be considered for a guest spot on this program, please contact me via growthmodemarketing.com or reach out to me, Deanna Shimoda, on LinkedIn. And if you found this show informative, subscribe, connect with us on social media, and leave a review. This is Deanna with Growth Mode Marketing signing off. Thanks for listening. We hope you'll tune in again next time.